Okay, welcome everyone. It is June 18th, and we are doing our monthly webinar here with the focus on the Revit add-in with Digital Codes Premium. My name is Phil Anthony. Eric Stover will be presenting the topic here. And while we are going through this webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in chat. If it's about the Revit product or add-in, I'll interrupt Eric if it's pertinent to what he's covering right there, and we can jump in and get that question answered. Otherwise, you got questions on Digital Codes Premium features. I know Eric will be showing how some of those work in with the Revit add-in, but feel free to post any questions about any Digital Codes Premium topics that you have, and I will answer them in chat. And now I will turn it over to Eric to introduce himself and the topic.
Great, thank you so much, Phil. All right. So I'm Eric Stover. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I've been contracting with the ICC since spring of 2022. I've spent about 30 plus years in the AEC industry delivering all kinds of software. And I spent most of my tenure at Autodesk responsible primarily for the AutoCAD product line for at least a decade of that time, but definitely spent a lot of time with Revit as well. My goal with ICC was to be hired to synthesize a vision, articulate a roadmap, and then build it. And so what you're seeing here today is kind of where we are on our roadmap for BIM and CAD plugins for the building code world. And I always start a presentation off with, as always, I'm happy to connect with you. If you want to talk about anything in the world of AEC or just connect on LinkedIn, there's my URL. So feel free to sign up and ping me. So I guess when I think about what the vision is for what we're trying to build here, after 2 years of work, it's this. This is our vision statement. So for building professionals like yourselves who want to create a safe and sound structure for your clients, the ICC Digital Codes Premium Revit Add-In is a digital tool that enables the architect, structural, MEP, and fire protection engineer to validate construction plans with published applicable building codes during the design process itself. This is our North Star. This is what we're looking to build out as we continue our work here for ICC. And again, some graphics of kind of what the app looks like, but our app is a free application, so you can install it on top of Revit. We support 22 through 24 right now. Revit 2025 is coming shortly, but it allows you to work directly with the building codes in the context of your own designs. That's the purpose of this, is why you're working inside of Revit, have access to the content you need right then and there is kind of what we're shooting for. But all the codes for your project are in one place, including helpful features to take notes and highlight important sections relevant to your projects. You can also print sections to PDF and share everything with others who are all working on this Revit file in your project team. So I'll run a demo here shortly in a few minutes, but let me get through a few slides just to kind of talk about an overview of what we've got so far. So let's start with our codes library feature, which centralizes all of your code books in a single location. It's a holistic solution that enables advanced search, bookmarking, and again, as I mentioned, even PDF printing and sharing of the project codes all from this single location inside of Revit. Now, when you're accessing the building codes within Revit, there's a number of types of subscriptions to get access to various topics and code books. So you, at the very least, you can always interact from within Revit with all the I codes and state codes. They're for free under our basic subscription tier. But if you want other advanced features, then again, there's a subscription service. You have to sign up for that. Premium is a for-fee service. It offers an ever-growing list of features and improvements delivered on top of an ever-growing inventory of titles, as well as curated content by the ICC. And you can subscribe to a single book, a collection of titles, or everything we have in the library, which is what is labeled here as Premium Complete. And the Revit add-in itself integrates with all the premium features and content when you are a subscriber. Or again, if you just want to review the I codes or state codes for free, you can do that as well. So Revit works with everything, whether you're on subscription or not. And a little bit about the pricing plans is what you see on screen is so you can subscribe for a month, a year, or even 3 years to any title or bundle of titles, which comes with a set of collaboration features to help you navigate, document, print, and share that content, as I mentioned before. Here's some sample pricing, but your mileage may vary depending on the content you're interested in. And then I'll call out Premium Complete on the far right, which really is you get everything. Like it's kind of the Netflix model. You get all the videos, all the content, all the features for one particular price. And again, your mileage may vary depending on kind of if you're a member of ICC or not. So that's the codes library world that we access within Revit. Let's talk about our project information feature. So we recently implemented a project view to capture your key basic elements of the project in each particular Revit file and what that file is associated with, which also includes in the screenshot here, you can see all the relevant codes that file is associated with. It's the content itself is saved within each Revit file, and so with anyone who accesses the Revit model, will be able to see what codes are applicable. We also link this project and code information to our own ICC cloud to help us begin to drive the right content at the point of need while we're using Revit. So it's really critically important for us to know like what codes are applicable to what you're working on, so then we can serve up the right content as you're working with features inside of Revit. So I'll show a little bit of that when I talk about our roadmap. But also, also wanted to call out, I've been asked before about this, so I'll address it here, that we take your privacy very serious. We don't save any specific project information or even the Revit files on our servers. Your information is completely private and never leaves your desktop. So all the stuff that you create here is yours. And again, we don't store any of it on our site. Okay. So next up, our building code summary or scheduling. So once the project info is filled out, we automatically create a building code summary schedule that will stay up to date with any code changes you may need to make on the project as your work progresses. So this table, this schedule you're seeing here, once you fill out the project information, it's automatically created in Revit. And again, as you make changes to the building codes, if you need to change one thing or two or add a code, this schedule automatically stays updated. You can place it on your cover sheet, and then just know that whenever a change is made, that this schedule will automatically get updated as we move along. So other things we've implemented, especially recently, is that once the information is entered, we create a project tag in our library so that you can use these project tags to organize your notes or content as you're working on in the cloud. Additionally, we automatically favorite all the titles you've selected for this Revit file, so it's much easier to get to the content of interest for your project. And then, plus, again, as I mentioned, knowing this code information really helps us start to drive the most applicable content for you while you're working. So now that we know that in this particular file that you're working with the 2024 IBC, we can be a lot smarter about how you're doing mouse clicks and button clicks in Revit of what kind of content is most relevant to you in that particular code versus having you go and search everything. It's like we can be very, very targeted now that we know. Next up is AI Navigator. So in terms of getting help, we have a new artificial intelligence tool that can offer quick, helpful replies to your basic code questions. And it's programmed to help you navigate the I codes and state codes like an expert. So again, this is a really nice front end to a ever-growing knowledge base of code information that only gets smarter over time. So if you know anything about AI or large language models, and who doesn't, because they're just in the news every single day for the last 2 years, is that all these models get better and better the more they get used. The smarter that the AI engine becomes based upon, again, feedback from customers who utilize them. And this is no different than that. Okay. And then up next is Premium Answers. So this is, we deliver a constantly expanding and searchable database of Q&A and their interpretations from the ICC team of technical experts. So in this feature, if you're a premium subscriber, you can submit a question about a code, and we have a series of experts in ICC who will give you an evaluation of what they think the code means and what their interpretations are. And all that is stored in this section called Premium Answers. So again, another ever-growing knowledge base of material that's curated by the code experts themselves. But wait, there's more self-help. So additionally, again, the help system is growing for the product. There's a live chat feature if you want to reach out to us in person for help. We have a nice YouTube channel that has an ever-growing list of helpful videos and webinars on demand. And we even have email in our About box if you wanted to touch base with the development team directly. So, I mean, really the idea of these last 3 slides is that we really want people who use the building codes to become experts at the building code if you're not already. And we're trying to think about all kinds of ways we can get you the right information that's digestible, understandable in your hands as soon as possible without having to take a lot of time to navigate large libraries. And so the smarter we can get about serving you content, the smarter you'll get about understanding the building codes. And that's really why there's so much focus on AI navigation, premium answers, all these various avenues to help, because we want you to get you to the next level. And then lastly, we've included a simple alert system to let you know when an update to this product is available. So we use the standardized red dot that appears next to the About button. So when you see that, it'll take you to the download page, and we'll show you the next update, and you can download it, and it overwrites what you currently have in terms of this app or plugin. And again, all the Revit updates, they're all free. So before I get into the demo, so again, it's available now. So if you haven't seen the plugin yet, or you want to give it a test drive, we have it on our ICC Revit download page at the following URL. It's also available at the App Store, but I have to say that the App Store right now is about a couple of weeks behind in their updates. So whatever you download, if you downloaded the Revit plugin from there, you'll get the red icon immediately, and it'll take you to the ICC page to get the current build. So App Store is one release behind currently. As I mentioned, we support 22 through 24. 25 is on its way. I've had this question asked a couple other times that there is no Revit LT support currently, just because they don't support an API at this moment. And then if you have any feedback about the roadmap, or you just want to ask us questions, this is the email to reach us at. All right, so let's go ahead, and before I get back to the roadmap, let's go ahead and take a test drive. So let me get out of this and bring up my trusty Revit.
There, can I ask a question for clarification?
You can ask away.
All right. We're talking about Digital Codes Premium. Yes, you have the ability to view I-codes and state amended codes without a subscription. That's what Eric was referring to as basic and free. Eric, could you clarify what the difference would be is if they were using this Revit add-in without a license or subscription, as we call it, as opposed to if they actually have a subscription to Digital Codes Premium?
Sure. Why don't I speak to that through the demo? That's a great question. So again, you can access the I-codes and state codes within Revit, and you can view them and read them, but there's a lot of feature functionality on, I would say in the cloud that doesn't necessarily work unless you have a subscription. But let me call that out as we go through this. I think that's a good question. So when you, so this is Revit, we are our favorite BIM application. And so to find our app, once it's installed, if you go to add-ins, you can see our toolbar here within the ribbon. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on login and bring up our window, and give me a second to type in my email address. Giving everybody my email here, Gmail. Let's get password in. I'll log in here. Hopefully everything is acceptable. And there we are. Okay, so once you log in, then you'll see things like the codes library and project info light up, because again, they don't work without understanding exactly who you are and what you subscribe to. But so when you first boot up, this is the view you get. So this is the front page. And again, this is kind of like your intro to the building codes world. So the top feed is where we advertise our latest and greatest content. There's our Revit plugin and tools announcements. So you can kind of scroll through that to see what's new in the product. Under getting started, this is where we have content and tools and tool ideas for where you can start out. So we give you like some quick access to your library. You can start searching. You have ability to do favorites. There's links to webinars, quick start guide, so on and so forth. Down below, you have an access to all of your favorites that you've selected. And then under titles, this is just really where you can do a general browse of all the titles in the library. So again, I could just keep scrolling, or I could do searches on that. And then last but not least, there's a feature called concurrent access. And this is really another access point where you can collaborate with others with a shared code. So if you're collecting notes and bookmarks and things like that on a title, you can share your notes with others by, again, sharing an access code here. So that's that. So let's go up and let me dive into one of these books, and we can have a look around. So bringing up the IBC 2021. So back to the question, Phil. So if no matter if you have a subscription or you do not, you can get this view within Revit. So I can navigate this title or all the international or state codes within Revit. So this layout is akin to every other publisher or book company that you've seen on the internet for the last, I don't know, 30 years. There you have navigation on the left-hand side where you can actually look through the book section by section. We have, and I'll talk about this in a minute, a section where you can add notes to the book. And there's also a thing called Premium Insights, which are additional context from our experts about various topics within each book. But if I go back to contents, you can see that I can scroll and I can just kind of read each section. We have the ability here where if this happens to be a version that's out of date, we acknowledge that this is historical, and we tell you that the current one is from September 2021. And as you're navigating the various titles here, if you have been here before, you can actually jump to a section that you just last visited. But again, very familiar book experience. And again, you can, whether you're a free customer or you have a subscription, this is how you navigate the literature. So let me go out and bring up project info. And so again, this is where you can put in information about this Revit file, what project it belongs to. So let me just go ahead and for the demo's sake, let me go ahead and fill it out. This is for our Snowden Towers project. And this is in Tempe, Arizona, my hometown. Project type is mixed use. Jurisdiction is Maricopa County. And if I can only spell, and then I'll just type in description. So now that I've typed all the information at a very basic level, and again, we're not looking to have a project management system within what we're doing here. This is really just to kind of help us understand some of the context of this project so we can go and grab and get the content that's most relevant for you. And so obviously having a site location, knowing what type of project it is and the jurisdiction, we can be really targeted about getting content to you ultimately as we build this thing out. So in terms of the building code for this project, I'm going to select the 2021 building code. Structural code is going to be within that context as well. I don't have a specific one for Tempe, but under plumbing code, if I type in the words Tempe, do I see a plumbing code here? There is one, and I'll go ahead and save that. And so what I'm doing now is saving that information, and when I say okay, I get a message that says, hey, there is an updated building code summary table that's now available as a schedule. So let me take a quick look at that. So if I go to my schedules, and under Revit 2024, it's under none, which is just, I have my personal opinion on why Revit team named it that way. But under none, you see building code summary. And so if I scroll in on my cover sheet here, I can just drag and drop that right on the front page. And if I zoom in, you can see that these are a mirror reflection of the codes I put into my project information. So let's go ahead and put that in and go back to project info and bring that up. And so what happens if I wanted to make a change or an addition? So let's go under the fire code, and I know that Tempe has its own, fire code. Click on that, save it. And again, it goes and writes that to the Revit file. And give it a second, say okay, and then I get a notification that the summary table is updated. So again, the key here is that wherever this Revit file goes, if there's any changes to the code summary table, you'll recognize that this is always going to stay up to date. So you don't have to keep going back and forth and adding and changing things. It's always going to be based upon what you put into that project info dialog box. All right, so, and then one thing I'll call out is I go back to the codes library. And if I click on menu and go to favorites and manage favorites, you'll see that in addition to the 3 favorites I already had tagged, then I now see, the adopted fire code of City of Tempe, plumbing code City of Tempe. So again, we're automatically starting to connect the dots between the content that is relevant to this project and what you put in terms of what's relevant for your project. So a lot more to come on these kind of connective, this connective tissue over time. But anyway, I wanted to call that out. And again, as you make changes to your project info, we'll add favorites as you add different codes to this particular project. All right, so Let me go to, and so this favorites, by the way, so just back to the question at hand. So when I go manage favorites, again, if you're a free, you're a basic customer, you get access to this, so this works for you, as well as if you have a subscription. So next up, so again, as you put in your project information, one of the premium tools I'll talk about here is project tags. And so this is not for free. So you have to have a subscription to get all the features you're seeing here on this list are for fee. And so whether you have a premium subscription to one title or you bought everything under complete, all this stuff would light up for you. There's no difference once you have a subscription on any of these features. You get them or you don't, as a versus a basic. So project tags. So let me click on this. And so what you see here, let me get rid of this stuff that's irrelevant. So we've created a project tag on the server that is based on the name of your project title. So tags are really valuable when working with any library of information. So they offer like a systematic way to categorize and organize data for each project. And it really makes your productivity go way up once you start to flag content relevant to a project that's important. And so you can see we automatically created this project tag. Let's kind of show how this all works. And so let me go back to my favorites and let's bring up the 2021 IBC. And so just to show how these tags work, so let's go and see that if I wanted to go and maybe select on occupancy use here for a business group B, click on that, bring up the content. And I want to, this is actually important to my project, so I want to actually take a note. And it's almost like, think of this as kind of like doing a sticky note in the book, but this is like the digital version of that. So let's say that for my project in Tempe, I really want to like mark this for the future and do civic administration. That's the content I want to select. So now, and again, this is where these are the features that you cannot use under a basic subscription. You need to have a premium subscription, but again, all premiums are created equal. So if I click on this button, I can select and create a note. And so, I'm just going to write a note for about occupancy classification. And then what I can do is say, okay, for this note that I've created, I'm going to apply it to this particular project. And so you can have notes on all kinds of different projects that are the same or different. And so if I save this now, and I save it, and then what I can do is if I go into notes, I should be able to see that here. If I click on that business group B, if I scroll down, you can see where I took a note, and that's where that is listed. And then if I want to, over time, and I'll show this as well, is if I go back to menu and let's go ahead and bring up my project tags, or actually I want to do notes, sorry about that. Bring up my notes and bookmarks. So what you see here is that I can go ahead and select a project tag and actually see all the notes I've taken against any number of manuals for that project that's specific to that project. And what's really nice is that, as we build out the notes section of this book for this project, I can share these notes with others. I can start an email. I can actually create a whole PDF and put it part of my documentation set if I need it, or just for reference. So there's all kinds of ways to kind of export what you've created and save it locally or wherever you might, want to share information. So again, that's a little bit of how all this stuff is tied together in terms of tagging and notes and favorites. So let me go back and let's bring up, let's go back to the 21 IBC again. So another feature, then again, that is premium subscription only. It doesn't work if you've got read-only access, but is the ability to copy and paste content from a document into Revit and actually use it to kind of do notes inside of Revit. So let me just for the sake of time here, let me just go click on means of egress and exit. I'll just choose this chapter. I'm just choosing this at random just for the sake of example. But if I wanted to say that this is a really important note that I want to copy and paste into any sort of sheet on Revit or detail, I can just go ahead and select it, the content itself, and I can right click copy. And if I go back to Revit, I like to do restroom demos. So why egress is not relevant to the detail here, but you'll get the idea that if I go ahead and start an annotation in Revit, You can guess what happens next. I can just go ahead and paste that information in there. But then I've got a note inside of Revit that is it's from the code directly. And so you, by virtue of having a subscription, you can copy and paste as much as you want from the building codes content right into your Revit sheets if you need to, in terms of how you document your drawings. So I want to call that out. All right. And so let me go back to our menu and escape out of annotation. So I guess let's go into AI navigation next. And so again, as I mentioned, AI Navigator is here's where you can get all your answers to your code compliance questions anytime. And again, you're interacting with a technology that is only going to get better the more people use it. And we've got thousands and thousands of people pinging this thing every day saying, this is good, that's the wrong answer, whatever. And all that interaction makes the model better for everybody over time. And so, it's trained on the ICC I codes currently, as well as state codes. And it searches the 2021 editions of the I codes, but you can select, whatever you want, wherever you would like it to search. So let me click on the use button. So you can see here that I can type in a jurisdiction, that I want to search. And so, I can actually search all the I codes if I'd like. And if I want to search a certain group of codes, like the 2021, I can do that. And so again, we'll be expanding the scope of this over time as this thing grows and builds out. And so again, just for the sake of example, I was doing some searches earlier about, glazing. So let's go ahead. If, type a question. So I was looking for the exceptions for glazing adjacent to doors. And so it's going off into this very large language model and, trying to figure out what makes the most sense based on the words you're using and the context of the words you're using and the order of the words you're using. And so it comes back with what it feels is an answer to the question in the IBC 2021. And so, again, this is where if you rate, and we strongly encourage this, no matter what AI interface you use in your day-to-day life, whether it's, on Amazon or wherever else, if you rate it, it only makes it better over time. Whether this is the wrong answer or right answer, it only helps train this young child called an AI bot to get better and better. So again, it came back and said, well, here's what I think the answer to that question looks like. And it also is where it pulled the information from. So I can click on the IBC 2021, and I can actually see the title and the chapter information for this section. And if I want to, I can go ahead and jump to that section within a chapter as well. So it takes me there. And then again, this is where I would say something like, oh, this is really interesting. I want to take a note. And again, I'll just say glazing and then attach it to this particular project, save it. And then again, you can start to see that in this context, did I use the right code? No. I can go back to my menu and bring up my notes and bookmarks. And then again, under this Snowden Towers project tag, you can see, I chose two different ones. You can see where I've got all my notes starting to build out based upon how I query the data in this, in these titles through AI Navigator or elsewhere. Speaking of elsewhere, so let me go into our premium answers section. So again, this is back to the question. If you are a premium user, you can submit questions and get interpretations of those questions. So that's the difference between free, which you can look at things, but you can't interact. This is really has real opinions from ICC experts from a broad collection of topics. If you're a member, like I said, you can submit and get clarification on questions you have. And then the questions that are the most common make it to the knowledge base so that others can, take a look at this information and learn from it. So in my case, I know my building's got an atrium and I'm curious about, multi-story atrium. So if I click on, let's find the 2021 IBC, because that's what I'm working with. It already comes back with results saying, well, here are some, questions and answers about atriums. And I'm curious about this one in particular, like, does the IBC require multi-story atriums to be separated from adjacent spaces? And again, it comes back with, like, if I click on this, there's a context of what was in the 2021 building code, but you get access from the ICC team of experts of how they interpret this in much, much more detail. And then the sections that they looked at to help inform their decisions. And so again, I can go ahead and click on, if I want more information about this, again, as I mentioned before, at any point in time, I can say, yeah, this is really interesting to me. I want to take a note, and I can click on the note feature and assign it to a project tag like I've done before. The other things I want to highlight here in this call out is that I can also do things like make a bookmark. If I wanted to bookmark this section for later, I don't want to do that. I can also share this information. So I can send this information via email to another party. I can print this out to PDF, the section as a whole, 404, or even just the stuff that I've highlighted. But again, all these tools and features are available to you, again, if you're a premium subscriber, that lets you interact with the content and again, document it, put sticky notes on it, everything else I've mentioned before. So again, one last thought on like the whole premium answers is that it, as a central repository of information, it's really makes it easy to reference and retrieve relevant data when you need it. And again, you can learn from it, right? You get these curated answers, you get interpretations, and reading through this stuff just makes it, I hope, hopefully more eye-opening about how to interpret codes yourself in the absence of this kind of help. So again, this is where we are today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the roadmap next. But again, I really wanted to focus this last release, and releases come every 2 to 3 months, around really making sure that you've got all kinds of access points to get to the information that you need at the time of need. And because you've now put project information in, we now are able to open a door to a whole lot more of how we can serve up content while you're actually doing the design work in Revit. So that's the demo. Let me go back to my PowerPoint slides here. And let's talk about what's coming up next. And this is in no particular order, but this is kind of what we've been focused on in terms of our designs and development estimates. So just to set some context, so again, if we think about, this is a very common BIM, building information modeling diagram of how the process works and what the titles are of each part of the process within BIM. This is where the ICC world kind of plugs in. We plug into design development, analysis, construction documentation, even renovation. These are the sweet spots that we're looking at initially of how we develop features in Revit and the cloud that really support the work that you're trying to do here and make it go faster. Again, elevate your knowledge of the codes. And so starting with like design development, and I'm going to focus on 2 areas, design development first. And again, just to read out loud, so we're, I'm sure we all know what design development is, but it's the phase that takes the floor plans, elevations, and sketches established in the schematic design phase and fine tunes the details. And at the end of this phase, you will have a clear understanding of how the building will look, feel, and function. So in this space, under this umbrella, again, the way we're kind of thinking about how we develop this product out, and you saw I had a bunch of dialogues open as I was clicking through the ribbon, is that you kind of have this like heads-up display on one monitor, or behind Revit if you have a single monitor, while you're working in Revit. And this whole heads-up display will be ultimately, again, changing context in real time as you're doing work inside of Revit. That's kind of what we're shooting for in terms of a usability experience. And so starting with, as we start to grow out kind of the whole documentation side, is that, we're going to make it really easy for you that once you establish what codes are relevant to this Revit model, that you'll have drop downs in the ribbon that will take you to the key places that matter to you most, places maybe where you have your notes already taken, or chapters that you want to go back to as reference. So it's just really one click to get to the sections that are of interest to you. So that will be coming shortly. We will also have a section where, again, as you start doing more documentation on the codes, you'll have part of my amateur hour icon for the letter N there, but you'll have a way to click on your notes section and get all the notes that you've documented in the books relevant to this particular project. And then you can output all that to PDF. You can save it locally, email it to yourself, whatever. But we want to get it so you can actually see everything there. And I'm also thinking about a mechanism that lets you, that if you're copying and pasting codes back into Revit, like I demoed, that those, you'd have a listing here or there as well of what you did in Revit. And then on top of all that, but wait, there's more, that if there's any sort of code changes, that you get updated, especially when you're copying and pasting in Revit, that this is, this has been updated. There's a new version about, just so you know that you need to go back and take a look at it, make a change. So we're doing a lot of work in the future around how you take notes and how you manage your notes. And again, so again, as we think about kind of how we, you know, get the right information to you or suggest the right information to you at the right time. Again, we are looking to expand what we do with the project's location and jurisdiction so that we can, understand what your jurisdiction utilizes in terms of codes, and even maybe go look at their websites and see what they've written in terms of like how they interpret certain codes and what the law is in your jurisdiction. All that good stuff is going to come just by virtue of the fact that you said this is in Tempe, Arizona, and it's in Maricopa County. We can do a whole lot more now. Now that we know, where the project is located in terms of what content is most relevant to you. And what's even better is that we're looking to slap an AI engine on top of all this as well, so that over time the AI engine can be trained to say that if you said Maricopa County, I don't have to have an Excel spreadsheet behind the scenes that looks up Maricopa County and what the codes are. This bot will go and say, oh, Maricopa County, I know where the URL is. I'm going to go look at the content, and I'll serve up the right content based upon what I think is appropriate for that jurisdiction. So that's something we're actively looking at right now, is kind of what technology do we put on top of this when we ultimately get to this point where we want to use AI in this space. And so then use your imagination, but you can see where this can go, where that when you're working inside of Revit, we can start to give you important tips and tricks and interpretations and whatever else we want to flag about what you're doing inside of Revit. Now, we have to have the context of, what phase of design you're in, what you're actually building, so that, if you click on floor, you don't get 100 snippets of floor comments in the building code. That's not the goal here. But the goal here is to get really crisp and smart about well, if you click, if you did these following 5 commands in order, that usually indicates that you're trying to do this exercise in design, which means that this is the building code that we should go pull for you as terms of a tip, right? So that's how I think the AI engine enables this kind of feature functionality to know that, hey, I think I know what you're doing. I've seen this before, and this is the code I think that may matter to you, just so you understand it as you're doing your design work. So that's what this is intended to kind of build and talk about. But then also, again, as you are navigating code books and doing note taking or just spending time on that, one thing we're researching is that we give you like a Reader's Digest version. Maybe I'm dating myself by saying Reader's Digest, but it's a shortened list of all the most referenced and condensed codes in a document that you visit the most, and give you, it's almost kind of like an abridged version of the code book, but we create it automatically based upon your activity, so that you get these PDF files or what other XML documents that just have what you visited. And it's a reference material, right? So it's a couple pages of stuff that you use most. And then that, if you flip it on its head, can actually turn into checklists for future projects. That once we kind of know what you do, how you engage the model, what is important to you, we can actually auto-magically create a checklist that for next time you can go through, oh yeah, this is what I want to, I need to accommodate, and this is what I need to make sure I'm aware of. And do that, again, based upon how we build out all these features. So, and again, this is all just the context of the roadmap is this is all, I would say within the next 6 months, we're exploring all this. The AI stuff's gonna probably take a little bit longer because it'll come out in beta format most likely, and it'll need to be trained just like a young child. But that's 6 months is kind of our time frame. We're thinking about how we deliver this stuff. So the other area within the next 6 months that we're looking at is how do we improve the world of construction documentation? You can read this yourself. I think we all know what construction docs are. But then, and this is great. This came in from a customer who had a really good idea. And again, as I mentioned before, and I'll mention at the end of this presentation, we have an email or I have a LinkedIn account. If you've got ideas and you're interested in participating and giving us things giving us a task list to do yourself, we are happy to engage. And this actually came from a customer that, and it makes the most sense to me in the world that, if you put in, you copy and paste a comment into your documentation, you want to hyperlink it back to the actual code snippet itself inside of the code libraries. And then you can see here in this diagram that we'd have a links feature where you drop down and it would highlight all the places where you put URLs in inside of your construction documentation. So you can quickly get there if you need to make changes. And if that code snippet like 706.5 exception 3 were to change or get updated, this is the place where we would show you a little red mark next to that link drop down that says, hey, this thing has been changed. You should investigate. So anyway, this came in from a customer, and definitely something we're highly interested in building again by the end of the year. Also, we've partnered with a company called ClearCalcs, which does all kinds of different calculators for us, and we're looking to expand that here too. And what I want to get out of this relationship is that we do allowable area, occupancy, plumbing, even egress calculations that you can then copy and insert schedules on your cover sheets that I've seen on every other cover sheet in my tenure. So that would automatically be done based upon what's in the Revit model. So again, you can see that on the website, that there's a couple of structural calculators, but there's gonna be a lot more coming from those vendors as we build out our relationship. Something pretty simple to do is that if we know where the site and location of your project is, we can easily create an icon or a graphic for you where the vicinity map is, and you can just drag and drop it and zoom in and zoom out. But again, this is kind of one of those, you get steak knives with your order. This is something pretty easy for us to do. And then again, also on our roadmap, just to, again, populate things on the cover sheet that we've seen over and over again. So I'm going to start to wrap here. That I think that we started in Revit, and so the way we're exploring this is that so my developer Josh Katz, he and I have been working together for almost 5 or 6 years on all kinds of technology. Is that we've engineered the work in Revit to be almost generic enough to actually leverage other types of products and platforms. Now we have our roadmap speaks to, like, we're going to go really deep into Revit and really explore the connective tissue with Revit and what you're doing in Revit, all the stuff I just mentioned in the roadmap. But we're at a point right now, before we dive into all of that, where we can actually start to explore how we do integrations with other things like Bluebeam and AutoCAD and ArchiCAD and all this stuff. And the thing is that we have some decisions to make on whether we do like add-ins like we do the Revit, or actually make this a desktop application on its own that talks to all these products and integrates with all these products. But I just want to let you guys know that we are actively thinking about what our next steps are here. We're building relationships with vendors. Like I said, I worked at Autos for almost 20 years. I have lots of relationships with their other product members, product line people. But we have, again, lots of conversations kicking off about how we connect the dots with these products, and be thoughtful about it too. We don't just want to put stuff out there that's like, that is not useful. We want to know, like, how ArchiCAD could benefit, the ArchiCAD user could benefit from this, or how we should really go deep into Bluebeam, as an example. So those conversations are happening. So I won't say in the next 6 months we're going to release new things for these products, but certainly for next year, it's on Josh and I's radar to again continue our conversations with these vendors and see about what a version 1 might look like, and in what order. And so I would say that, again, feedback from everybody on the call, it'd be helpful just to hear, like, what would be the next thing you'd want to see us integrate with as we build and build and build, and just get that information. So again, as I wrap here, and we'll do some questions, is that again, you can get the app today on our ICC download page. And again, the App Store is one release behind, but you can still get it there, and you'll just be led to an upgrade path. And then again, if you have any sort of feedback, or you want to help inform the roadmap, or you think we're doing all the wrong things and you want different stuff, there's our email address. That goes right to myself and Josh, and we will respond to you within 24 hours, guaranteed. And then there's more helpful videos from the ICC located on the following URL, so you can kind of see everything that is being built out here. And yeah, I guess I'll stop. I think I have to always say I'm sorry. I think I've unleashed the fire hose on everybody in these meetings, and there's a lot to take in. I'm glad there's a video being saved, so we can go back and listen to it maybe half the speed that I talk. But anyway, Phil, I'll open the door to any sort of Q&A. I'll be here for the next 15 minutes or more if need be. But anyway, that's it.
No, definitely appreciate the presentation there, Eric. And we will continue to do these types of webinars. So if you've either got an email or you've seen this advertised on our Digital Codes Premium page, we're trying to do this on a pretty consistent schedule to keep track of all your updates. There hasn't been any questions while we're talking in the chat. While we're talking here, if anyone wants to raise their hand, they can as well. And Eric, I know we were kind of talking about this internally, but I know you have a couple of, and you kind of mentioned it, not focus groups, but people who are actively, working with you or may be interested in doing some, webinar or web calls with you as as you and Josh are producing these features. So I don't know if that's something that you're continuing with or want to mention.
Yeah, we will continue with that process. So what we strongly encourage, if you're interested, and we provide gift cards because we know your time is valuable. But like we'd love to hear from any customer about like feature ideas. And then when we tend to get emails, what I'd like to do is usually turn around and get a call and just start talking through like what did you mean when you said this, and design it almost in real time. And then and then also, so that's kind of the one-on-one experience. And then also getting groups of customers into like an hour-long focus group on the phone and just, talk about an idea and just hear what people have to say about it, throw darts at it, and just get feedback on those kind of things. We were at AIA a week or two ago, so there's opportunities to meet in person there. We have another show in Long Beach coming up that's specific to ICC's works coming up in October, I believe. And I'm also in California, so like I've got it on my calendar to drive to Sacramento to visit some customers in person. So I'm mobile, so if within reason, I'm happy to fly and go visit in person and just kind of watch people work and get ideas. So that's a bit of the context of kind of how we want to engage.
Definitely appreciate that overview. I'm going to stop the recording here. Please stay on if you do want to ask questions, but I want to welcome or thank everyone that did attend here, and we will be sending out this link to the video recording of it